psychological trauma therapist, and you're very welcome to today's podcast, Mind Blowing.
And I'm Paul Gill, hypnotherapist.
So today we are going to follow up on our last podcast, which we were talking about habits and addictions. So today we're going to lead nicely into that now, Paul, and talk about habits and addictions.
Yeah.
See what comes up for us.
Well, as I touched on in the last podcast, we're all addicted to something. And addictions aren't necessarily a bad thing. Addictions get us to do things. Addictions and habits are closely related. But I suppose the word that we're looking for here is control. You know, are you in control of a habit? If you're not, then it's an addiction. Like I go for a walk every morning. I'm trying to establish that habit. There's some mornings I don't feel like going for a walk, but they'll say, like, if you went for a walk, you know, every day, for some people say, like, you know, 31 days, or some people say 63 days, you establish a habit. But it doesn't necessarily take that time. I think if you have the expectation that it takes that time, it will take what you expect. But like when I help people with thinking about smoking, they develop a new habit instantly. They don't need to take 31 days or 63 days. Where that comes from, as far as I understand, is back in the day, when not even back in the day, but when people suffered phantom limb pain, where they had an amputee and leg gone, but he still had pain in his leg. It took that duration of time for the brain to stop sending signals into the leg and back to register pain. So that's how people assumed that's how long it takes. But it doesn't need to take that long.
Yeah. So it varies, I suppose, to change a habit. To change any habit, it takes time, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. But you, as well as that too, I suppose you have to have motivation to do it. Like, you know, when somebody comes in to me with, it could be alcohol, it could be, you know, even people for weight loss, they don't realize that they're actually addicted to certain foods or even a certain pattern of eating. They just think, I'm eating crap stuff, I need to lose weight.
Quickly ask you now, just while we're on that, is it true that eating late at night, you know, makes you gain weight?
The science behind that, Siobhan, is that you're not going to be active late at night. You're not going to eat a Chinese and then go out and run a marathon. Or, you know, if you're drinking and you're consuming pints or whatever, you're just going to go to bed and sleep. And your body, your digestive system isn't going to do anything with that. It'll just park it, store it.
So when you're working with people, do you advise them not to eat late at night? Or
not necessarily, because if you go to bed on an empty stomach and you're hungry, you're not going to have good quality sleep.
Okay.
So sometimes there's a measure. It's neither all or nothing. I think you need to find what suits yourself.
Right.
And you know this old myth, like if you eat cheese, you're going to have nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
It's not so much that it's about cheese. It's about the weight of the stuff in your system.
Okay.
If your system, cheese is hard to digest, it's heavy.
Yeah.
And if your body isn't totally relaxed and it's struggling to try to get through all of this stuff, you're not going to have good quality sleep. You're going to be twisting and turning, and that's not going to be a good experience. And your mind tells you everything you know about not good experiences, which includes your fears, which give you nightmares. Yeah.
But I mean, alcohol does exactly the same thing. So if you drink late at night, a lot of alcohol, or even just a couple of glasses of wine, for example, you know, actually, one of the things I want to touch on around this as well is the difference between, you know, some people will not like the word addiction. They're like, oh, I'm not addicted to it, I'm dependent on something. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I have a dependency. But I think that's kind of copping out a little bit.
It is a splitting hairs.
Yeah, I really do.
You kind of go, are you in control?
You're either in control or you're not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same with alcohol. So when you go to bed at night then and you've drank a good bit or you've had a few drinks, it's going to affect your sleep, I think.
Oh, it'll put you into deep sleep.
Yeah.
But what happens is you ping out of that deep sleep at about 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't go back. And because it interrupts your sleep cycle and your dream cycle. We go through kind of like from here, if you like, from awake down into a trough of where you're dreaming, and you get to the bottom of that and your body's healing, and you go back up. You go through cycles where you actually nearly wake up 5 times during the night. You kind of go, when you go through 5 cycles, you don't nearly wake up 5 times. Alcohol, you can go whoom, straight off a cliff and you're bound straight back up again, and you're all over the shop. You know these apps you can get to monitor your sleep. You can really see it in that. If I would ask people to bring that in, just to track it, and then to become aware. Well, hold on a minute. Okay, I thought I was doing myself a favor that I needed to drink to get to sleep.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's valid, but it's not the best way to get to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose that's what I do with people too. Like a lot of people think there's something wrong with me because I'm addicted. to something.
Yeah.
It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's a
Mm.
strategy that your mind has come up with, and the strategy works, or else you wouldn't continue to do it. But it's not the best strategy. Like I mean, eating sweet stuff, artificial sweet stuff in particular, because the body doesn't know how to break that down.
Okay.
Because our ancestors, right up until I was going to say 100 years ago, maybe even 50, 60 years ago, ate natural food. The body can break down natural food. It can't break down artificial stuff. We haven't developed even like something like drinking milk or dairy in Europe, and especially in Ireland and the UK, we developed this ability to digest dairy. A lot of people are lactose intolerant. We've developed the ability not to be. Because we persisted with drinking at it, we're kind of thick-skulled like that. We just keep going and going and going.
We've always been taught that it's a good nurturing.
Well, human beings are the only creatures, as far as I know, that continue to drink milk after being weaned.
Yes, I've heard that actually in research as well. So a lot of different theories out there, vegans, vegetarians, and we're not here to talk about diets today, of course, we're not doctors or nutritionists, but like there's a lot of research to say that we shouldn't actually touch dairy at all. It's not good for us. Why are we drinking cow's milk?
We
shouldn't
genetically evolved to digest it.
Yeah.
So, and again, you know yourself, if you're allergic to dairy, you know, your body will tell you.
Oh yeah, you're going to know all about that.
Yeah. That's another podcast. But going back to eating sweet stuff, when you eat sweet stuff, you get a hit of serotonin. Serotonin, as many of you know, is the feel-good chemicals. It gives you a high. It's like you're a bit of a, you get your fix. And serotonin is created in the gut, not in the brain. Well, about 5% of it's created in the brain, but most of it's in the gut. And you get a hit instantly.
Boom.
And it works. You feel better in that moment. But then you drop down off the cliff and you need to kind of go, oh God, I don't feel so good. What do I need to do? I need to eat more. Because you ask your mind, and your mind goes, this is what worked before. It forgets to tell you it only worked for 5 minutes. And then you get into a cycle of doing this. So when you feel down or you feel that you need something, or it's not to be a negative feeling. Sometimes you feel, I just need to reward myself. Your mind goes, sweet stuff. And it works, but it's not the best strategy. There's other things you can do.
That actually have long-lasting feel-good
value
to them.
You see, if it's a reward or self-love or nurturing, I'd say, well, could you run yourself a nice warm bath?
Yeah.
You're not going to eat in the bath, usually,
Yeah, exactly.
Even some people want to avoid alcohol. I say, could you go to bed early? Switch on the electric blanket, switch on Netflix, have that, this is just my thing. Again, you're not probably going to drink excessively in bed. Yeah. So it's about learning what works for you. There's no one size fits all.
No, changing that environment then as well, and the process that we adapt, I suppose, to facilitate the drinking or the eating, overeating, or whatever it is. So, like when you're talking, I suppose, I'm just thinking there like about people who overeat and do things. And I'm thinking about myself in this case as well, because what I tend to do is I'll have the bar of chocolate and I'll go, it's lovely. And it tastes good. But then in the back of my head, I feel really guilty. It's like, I shouldn't be fucking eating this now. I know I shouldn't be eating this. I'm going to France in a few months' time. I want to have a nice bikini body. That's just not going to happen if I keep eating the chocolate and the fries.
But why are you eating the chocolate? To feel good?
Yeah.
No, you feel good in the bikini.
Emotional.
But everything's emotional. Everything's emotional. You feel good in a good bikini body in summer.
Yeah.
But your mind's going, I can have this feel good now.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. And that gets, we touched on a previous podcast about people on phones. It gives you instant gratification. And in fact, like, phones pride themselves on how quickly you can, a site will load, whatever, it has to be a split second.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, it was like, you wait 10 seconds, it's buffering. It'll load, it'll load.
It's coming.
Now, if you had a phone like that, scrap, you'd throw it away.
Yeah, you would actually. So what's wrong with this?
It's the instant gratification thing. So we're always trying to manage ourselves as human beings. We're always going from one emotion to the next to the next. We're seldom in a neutral emotion. Some men perhaps might be in a neutral mindset. Women tend to use both hemispheres of the brain, left and right hemispheres. The right is more closely associated with emotional and creative thinking, subconscious mind mode. And again, it's not a hard and fast fact. It's just the template that we're working with at the moment. But when you're touching chocolate, you do know that chocolate has an effect on the female brain that it doesn't have on the male brain.
It must do, because I know that when my period is due, that I crave it.
Yeah.
Like in the 2 to 3 days before, I crave chocolate.
Yeah.
And I remember my sister, one of my older sisters, she's a psychologist actually in England. She said to me, "You need chocolate." She said,
Yeah.
and she told me this at a very young age when I was about maybe 12-ish, I'd say. She said, "Make sure you have plenty of chocolate now in the lead up to that.
Okay.
And it'll make you feel better."
Chocolate, cocaine, and coffee.
Fuck.
All cross, they get directly into the brain
Right.
and have an effect instantly.
Okay.
So the work of strategies, if you want to get a fix, those three things work, but again, are
Yeah.
the most effective thing. They did experiments with men and women in MRI scanners in the States, where they put a man into a scanner and they give him a square of chocolate, and the machine will tell them what part of the brain it affects. So, it could be a small little bit around the back there, about the size of a €2 coin. And they kind of go, yeah, that's interesting. It affects that. Put a woman into the same machine, give her a square of chocolate, Las Vegas.
No way.
Whole thing, Christmas tree, lit up. So it has an effect on the female brain that it doesn't have on the male brain. And you see, men, we are emotional, but we don't bring emotion into things as much as women do. Women have an emotional connection with food in particular that men don't. Many years ago, I stood in as a consultant for a weight loss company.
Yeah.
When some of their consultants were on holidays, and I'd fill in. And I remember you'd have to give, you have to talk the client that would come in, you talk them through the program, and then you give them a list of kind of, these are the kind of foods that we recommend. These are recipes. These are the kind of meals that you can have across the course of the day. Here's a food diary. Write down everything that you eat and bring it with you next time you come and see me. And I would find with the women that kind of go, oh yeah, well this, and then Wednesday there was somebody come over, and then I had this slice of apple tart and whatever, and then my sister called, and there was all emotional things and whatever. The men, I remember several men, it wasn't just one, put down the recipe thing that I given her. I said, no, it's your food diary that I want to see. What did you actually eat? He goes, I ate everything that was on that. I stuck to it. I just did that at 12 o'clock, that at 3 o'clock, and they did it. This regimen, because the male brain is broken differently.
Okay.
And this is why, and I'm talking about the male brain. I'm not talking about necessarily the difference between males and females, because whether you're gay, bisexual, or whatever, and even within people who are heterosexual, there's a male female dynamic within us all.
Yeah. And both can equally become addicted to things. Somebody once said to me that cocaine and gambling and sex really go together.
I'll try them.
They're those three.
I'll see.
Yeah, give them a go, right?
On my agenda for this weekend.
I don't know how true it is that the three of those really do go together, but I do remember dating a guy many years ago, and those were his addictions. That was his thing. Those were his things. Like,
you see, and again, they make you feel good, but there's consequences, and that's the problem with addiction. If you have an addiction and it's causing problems in your own life or your families or your relationship, then you really realize, actually, I need to change this addiction. And addictions can be changed and modified. The first part of that is recognizing what positive thing is the addiction doing for you. So
what void is it filling?
Like when I get people ringing me up to come in to give up smoking, and I say to them on the phone, here's a silly question for you. What positive thing is smoking doing for you? And they go, oh, it's not doing anything positive. Sure, it's robbing me. It's costing me lots of money. It's damaging my lungs, my health. I don't feel crap. I smell horrible. And I go, why would an intelligent human being continue to persist with a habit that gives them all of those negative things? Better question for you is, when are you more likely to smoke? And they go, well, when I'm on the way to work, or when I'm finished a job, I need to step out of a meeting. I go, that's the positives. It's relieving your stress. It's prepping you for a particular situation. It's a reward. And then go, oh, yeah, actually,
and there's a physical addiction as well, the biological piece.
There can be,
but nicotine.
There is that, Siobhan. There is that, but again, it is what you call a psychological dependency, because the definition of an addiction is you take a substance into your body that changes how you are physically or mentally or both. And in order for an addiction to continue to be an addiction, you either have to take more of the substance, take it more frequently, or both. Nobody's ever overdosed on cigarettes. People plateau at a particular level of cigarettes, 20 a day, 30 a day for 40 years. Whereas if you're on heroin or anything else, your consumption goes up and up and up until you overdose. And people can go for long periods of time where they don't smoke. Like, you can go to bed 7-8 hours And when you wake up in the morning, you don't have 7 or 8 cigarettes in a row to make up for the ones you didn't have. You can hop on a plane and fly to America 5, 6, 7 hours, and you kind of go, I can't smoke. Addicts don't have the luxury of switching off an addiction. So it's not so much that people are physically addicted to nicotine, it's a psychological dependency.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
Because, yeah, and I explain to people that...
so the habit.
We run apps.
Okay.
And somewhere between when they smoked their first cigarette, maybe as a teenager around the back of the shed in school, and today, the subconscious mind wrote an app that tells them when to smoke. The app doesn't smoke for them, but it punctuates your day with reminders. Ping, cup of tea and a cigarette. Ping, in the car and a cigarette. Ping, a meeting with the boss and a cigarette.
Yeah.
And when you recognize that pattern, when you can see it, and you can see its function, it's trying to reassure the person. You kind of go, how else can I cater for that need in my life? And when you ask the subconscious mind that, it goes, you've never asked that question before. This might work for you. This might work for you. It's like it's pulling data and files, information, and telling you. So every addiction has a positive intent. Yeah.
It's doing something for us.
Something positive.
I remember, like, because I was addicted to cigarettes on 3 occasions. I went back on them again, and I gave them up for years. But I remember the very first time I gave them up, I used the patches, you know, and it to me, the patch was helping me with it, because I was smoking like 40 Benson and Hedges a day or something mad like that. And I was only a young woman, like I was only like 20, 21 maybe, around that age group. And they absolutely worked. They got me off it. And they got me to a stage where I didn't need the patches anymore. Eventually, I was weaning myself off them, you know. And I stayed off them for a good 8 years, and then I started smoking again. And like that, I was right back to square one. It was as if I never fucking stopped.
And do you know what that was, Siobhan? When you break the chain of smoking, you sever the link.
Yeah.
And when you start back smoking again, sometimes people go, "Oh, can I have one? So I haven't smoked in years."
Yes.
Your subconscious mind reconnects the chain. It's like it kind of goes, this is all the data I have in store in your subconscious mind about smoking, and they'll reconnect the app. Yeah. And you go back to previous levels. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Notion, so it's not a true or proper addiction in terms of a physical addiction. And this is I had a guy just yesterday who was talking to me about the fact that he tried patches and he tried lots of things to give up smoking. And he said, why do you think? I said, why do you think that didn't work? He said, I don't know. I said, I was feeding myself my nicotine thing. I said, you weren't putting anything into your mouth. He goes, what? I said, cigarettes, it's an oral thing. It's an oral addiction. You're putting something into your mouth that helps you feel good. And we learned this as children. This is our programming. You put a tum, a bottle, or a soother into a child's mouth to pacify the child. So it was done to you. It was done to me when we were kids. We as adults were grown-up babies. Remember that. You'll see it. You'll see adults having tantrums. You'll see them having tantrums everywhere. Hissy fits. We're grown-up babies, and we put alcohol, food, or tobacco into our mouths to pacify us. Isn't it interesting?
That is just
so. I get
mind-blowing.
I get people who have stopped smoking. I say, chewing gum. Yeah. I go, why? It gives your mouth something to do. You feel better. You know the way when somebody's hammering something or screwing something out, as if it helps them concentrate, and it does, because the part of the brain that controls concentration is next door to the part that controls the tongue, and there's like an overspell. It's an overspell. And even when you think of classic films like Sherlock Holmes, he'd be smoking a pipe, or he'd be playing the violin, and inspiration will come to him. Yeah. He's giving himself a distraction, but especially with the pipe. The pipe thing, it's a thing. And I know carpenters and people like that will kind of put a pen into their mouth while they're thinking. That's right. It helps them to concentrate. So chewing gum is a wonderful substance, and if any chewing gum companies out there want to sponsor me, that's fine.
Yeah, bring it on.
When we get tense, we tend to, including our teeth, and that's an exaggeration. But chewing gum acts as a buffer. Allows you to do that without damaging your teeth, and it fools part of your mind in 2 ways. It fools part of your mind into thinking that you're eating. So amylase, the first digestive enzyme, kicks off, and then the rest of them in your digestive tract, because your brain thinks, oh, there's food coming, better make room for it. But there's no food coming, because even if you were to swallow a little piece of chewing gum, it's not going to take up much space, and you're not going to get any nutrients. So you actually can speed up your metabolism, and in theory you can lose weight. But a better one is Alex Ferguson is the example I give. So maybe some of yours might know who he is, but if you look at Manchester United, he was the former Manchester United manager, and he was always chewing gum up and down the side. Oh, stressed to the max.
Yeah.
Doormen outside the nightclubs. Doormen chewing gum.
They do actually.
Do they like chewing gum? Do they like flavors? It's not. They're tense. They're waiting for the action to kick off. They're waiting for the trouble. They're watching out for it. They can't relax. Chewing gum allows them to get some semblance of control, to feel that they have a base.
So going back again to that self-soothing thing then, you know.
Soothing thing. We're grown babies.
Grown up.
We need soothing.
You look like a grown-up baby.
I do. I came out exactly like this. I haven't aged today.
Pretty awesome.
So I think we've come to the end of this.
We haven't. We're just getting into the good stuff.
Well, we'll have that for the next podcast.
So anybody with addictions then, like, what is the final piece of advice, I suppose, for them? I mean,
recognize the positive thing that the addiction is doing for you.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, how can I get that from something else? Some other behavior. And when you ask your subconscious mind that, your subconscious mind is always flooding you with that and information. It will tell you. And then you start to implement, you start to work with a new habit, a new pattern of behavior. Because when you do that, your subconscious mind isn't particularly attached, doesn't care what apps it runs.
Yeah.
So beware of that. And when you give it an alternative, it latches onto that and it recognizes that that's the new regime. This is what I can do instead.
Okay. So what you're saying then, if I understand it correctly, is to find new habits.
New habits.
New
Let
ways
your
of
addiction
coping.
Migrate or mutate, whatever word you want to use. Go on to something else.
Absolutely. And always, you know, engage like with a professional. If you have a serious addiction that you want to give up or whatever, there's always people out there.
Lots of support.
There's so much support. The HC as well, loads of free support as well. You know, there's CADs and everything in there as well. The community alcohol and drug addiction, and they're actually fantastic. Like I've done loads of work with them over the years as well. And it's a free service as well, so it's mighty.
Yeah, so in whatever country you happen to be watching this in, if you Google, there's lots of support for you. You need to understand what the addiction is doing for you.
Yeah.
And take responsibility for that too. You can blame life, blame the world. You were dealt a bad hand at the start of life.
Yeah.
But when you blame, you give your power away. Much better attitude is I'm taking responsibility. It's what you do.
Yeah.
That makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so thanks a million for listening. Just if it's okay with you guys, just give us a thumbs up, maybe little comments, subscribe to our channel, you know, that helps us keep going. And also if there's any questions or anything you'd like us to talk about or anything you'd like addressed, please do give us a comment down below as well. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to myself and Paul at any stage, and we'd be delighted to help you guys. All right, so we'll see you again the next time. Bye.